Hello and welcome to part 4 of my series looking at my mock Hogwarts castle. Today we're going to be looking at the Grand Staircase Tower. I'm aware that's not the only name for this particular part of Hogwarts, but it's the name that I've chosen to go with. As you can see, there's a slight problem starting this video off, and that's that we can't actually see the whole tower. We'll just switch to handheld for a moment here so we can take a look at the entire thing. As you can see, it goes up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors plus the roof. You can see my massive Harry Potter minifigure collection there, as well as my logo that I've managed to make out of real bricks there. So it's a very tall building. It's not quite as tall as I would have liked to have made it, but I think any taller and the proportions were going to start to look wrong. As I think I mentioned in my original overview video, this isn't really wide enough. The circumference of the tower, if it was completely round and actually didn't end halfway there at the back, would be too small in relation to the Great Hall. But given the pieces that LEGO makes and the building techniques that I wanted to use, this was really as big as I could make it. So firstly, let's have a look at the points where it connects to the other buildings. So just down here is where it connects to the Great Hall. So this just actually keys in using these Technic axles again. They're blue because they're hidden inside the building, so it doesn't matter. And the Great Hall has the matching one which goes into that Technic brick down there. Just creates a little corridor for minifigures to go down. There's also, just the other side of the wall, the corridor, or the walkway on the outside, which leads from the courtyard of the Great Hall. And that continues on around the outside, where it joins on here, which is where it goes into the next building. I took a lot of time creating the angle between the corridor here and the tower. The corridor is connected, as I said, to the Great Hall, but then I actually wanted the Great Hall to be at an angle from the rest of the castle, as it is, so it's actually kept at a 45-degree angle by, you might just be able to see there's a hinge plate there, but there's also a hinge plate hidden under the steps, which I've put over it just there, and the two together hold this at the correct angle. I've had to use some different panels in there. There's actually a panel and then a brick there, where you can see the angle created between the roof and the castle there. There's actually a little bit of overlap, but it was the best way I could find of creating that angle, which also means that you can have a seamless walkway going around the outside. I've used a similar construction method to the Grand Staircase Tower from the 75954 Hogwarts Great Hall set. I've actually just added in an extra brick on either side of the windows here on the front, and the same thing on the side. And then actually when you get to the top floor here, which comes out with these corbels underneath, I've added 2 extra bricks. So the overall shape, if I just give you a top-down view, means that it ends up not quite as round. You can see it's got flat sides there. However, I think the overall shape is really good, and it's the roundest shape I could create, given the circumstances. Also similar to the 75954 set, I've used these stickers on the curved panel pieces. Otherwise, it would just be an expanse of tan brick or tan colour, which I think would look a little bit strange. Some of those did come with that original set, and some I've actually taken from other places and cut up and used in different ways. As I mentioned, the top floor, just underneath the roof, is held up on these corbels. I've tried to replicate the ones on the real building as well as possible. I've used these arch pieces which first came out in the large Hogwarts castle, and those are actually supported by inverted 1x2 slopes, which then fit around, in the cases of corners, these 4x4 curved bricks on the inside. I'll show you them from the inside of the building as well. So those aren't actually held in by any studs at the base just here, but they are keyed into the anti-studs underneath there. So although there is a little bit of movement in there, they're held pretty firmly by the bricks squashing them from top and bottom. Now up to the roof. I've used a very similar technique, again, to that 75954 set. You can see where I got a lot of my inspirations, using these long wedge pieces to fill the corners, although I've tried to smooth out the transition between the flatness of that and the curved bit underneath, using some of these slopes here, going from 1x3s to 1x2s with the little wedge cutouts, and then finally down to nothing there at all. I've also made it taller. I think the original had 2 layers of these slope bricks, and I've gone for 3, which is the same around the side. I'll show you how that's connected in a second. First of all, I'll just show you the 3 towers, which should have Dumbledore's office inside. You won't be surprised to know that that's not where I've put it, because there isn't really much space. I actually used a design I found online as the basis for this. If I can find where I got it from, I will credit them down below, but I do apologise if not. I just thought it was such a good way of representing it, going from what should be biggest, medium-sized and smallest turrets. I've just tried to replicate that with a plate underneath the roof there to make it look slightly bigger. And now we're inside. So this is looking at the bottom floor, which looks, again, familiar to that Hogwarts Great Hall set. Figures can come down the corridor there, straight through, and then up these stairs here. This one, it doesn't actually have a room in it at the moment. What it has got is this lantern, which represents the one that the students walk past when they first enter Hogwarts at the beginning of, well, not at the beginning of Philosopher's Stone, but when they first arrive at Hogwarts there. No, it's in the wrong place, but I thought it was a nice looking build. It's just an upside down minifigure lantern piece. And then there's a bit of corridor that extends here, and this bit actually connects onto the next section of the castle, which we'll look at next time. Going one floor up, there's actually nothing in this room at the moment, and that's because I've been a bit stuck of what to put there. I did think I could put the trophy room perhaps, or maybe a professor's office. I was thinking in particular it might be a good idea to have Umbridge's office in there. I'll have a think about that, see whether I want to actually make it a little bit taller, because it's a little bit difficult to see in there at the moment. And moving another floor up, you can see this one's a little bit taller, and that's because of those bricks that create the corbels underneath the top floor. You might just be able to see there's the curved 4x4 brick on the inside, and those square, if I can point right correctly, those square ends just there are those inverted 1x2 slopes. Got a knight statue here, which comes from an older Hogwarts castle set. In the books, Hogwarts is described as having suits of armour everywhere, so I thought it was appropriate to place one in the castle there, just on a small pedestal. And then up to what's probably the main room in here at the moment. This is Dumbledore's office. Like I said, it's not up in the 3 turrets just there, but I did decide to take up the most space I could with it. So this is the largest floor, and it's also got the most details in there. Okay, so I managed to take the roof off. Took a little bit of the arch with it just there, but I decided to leave it for now, so we can get a little bit more light inside and have a proper look. So we've got Dumbledore seated behind his desk just there. I've tried to replicate the one from the films as faithfully as possible, although also making it as small as possible to fit as much as I could in. So he's got a letter on the desk there, a quill to write with, there's a lamp just there. You've got the sorting hat on a stool, you've got the new forks that came in the Series 2 CMF sitting on his perch to Dumbledore's left. Behind there, you've got a cabinet with the pensieve on. I originally tried to replicate the pensieve as seen in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. However, I really didn't have the space, so I just went with the book description of it being in or on a cabinet. It's actually supposed to be a bookshelf in mine. You can see some of the books underneath there. It's 2 vials of memory just sitting next to him. On the other side, you've got a fireplace just there, which tucks in to that inside of that panel there. And then you've got Gryffindor's sword off at the side. It was originally clipped back up there, but you couldn't really see it, unfortunately. And it's such a great piece, I thought I would feature it a little bit better. I thought I'd also give you a look at Dumbledore's chair, which you couldn't see before because he was sitting on it. This is quite a nice little build that I created. I've tried to, again, match the chair in the films as closely as possible, obviously given the limitations of pieces and the size I wanted it to be. Unusual pieces used here, including the bullion bars in reddish brown, along with the Nexo Knights tile, and also the 1x3 jumpers with the 2 studs on them. Creates a nice little seat. Right, so I've popped the top floor back on again. As you can see, what I've got inside there is actually the gargoyle or griffin that's guarding Dumbledore's office. You might have spotted that it's in the wrong place. It really should be on the floor below, about where that knight is. However, I was looking at it and I realised that the space up here, while I could put the knight up there, I thought that the gargoyle created a nicer space filler sitting in the back there. So you just have to imagine that it's kind of down here. I think it doesn't really matter, given that Dumbledore's office should be in there, really. So everything's been moved about a little bit, just for the sake of looks on the inside and play, if you want to call it that. One last thing would be to show how the roof panels get held on. So there's one on this side, and I've taken the one on the other side off. So it actually uses these 2x2 round jumpers, and then the piece of roof itself is held on using plates with clips and bars, fairly simply. Actually, the center of that, if I can do this on camera, just goes into the middle there and is held on. But then I found that they were actually falling off too easily. So what I came up with is a fairly simple solution. It's just these two pieces together, and then I'm not going to be able to do it on camera, so I'll just cut to it done. And there we go, that just sits there and secures it in place without taking up too much space. Got room for this pillar to go back here. It will come off if you give it a hard enough knock, but it's better than it was before where you just looked at it and it fell off. And there we have it, that's my grand staircase tower. I've just put it back on the bricks which keep it at the same height as the rest of the castle. I'm going to be making some progress on the rock work around the rest of the castle, possibly as my next major project. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up down below. I passed 100 subscribers between last video and this one, and I'm now over 125, which is absolutely amazing. So if you do enjoy my content, then please subscribe to my channel for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one where we'll be having a look at the courtyard building.